Well, hello and welcome to the upper deck. I'm Lynn, and right next to me is Ciara. How you doing, Ciara?
I
What's up?
mean, I'm okay. I'm still mourning the loss of my second baseman. Friday was a very long day for me, and I know everybody else has kind of moved on already, but my heart is still shattered in a million pieces, just mourning the loss of Gleyber Torres. And I think I said it last week that I was prepared for it and I was ready for when the news broke, but I truly was not prepared for it. When Friday, my comments on Twitter, my DMs, like they were flooded with people letting me know that Gleyber had signed with the Tigers. And then I saw his goodbye message, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I know he's not everyone's favorite person, and I know he's made a lot of mistakes, but he's been with us for 7 years now. I know no one else considers him a homegrown Yankee, but I do because he was only in the Cubs farm system for I don't know, a season, and then he was with us ever since. We brought him up. He grew up with us. I consider him a baby bomber like Judge.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's top 5 infielders for most home runs for the New York Yankees. So, it's not like his entire tenure with the Yankees was complete garbage. And I just hope people remember the good parts of Gleyber Torres because I promise you, 2024, Bearded Gleyber is going on a revenge tour. And when the Yankees play the Tigers, first at bat, he's going to hit a home run.
Yeah, and it was a gut punch for me reading it, and I'm certainly not as hardcore a Gleyber girl as you are, but still it seemed shocking even though we all knew it was coming. It was still a shock because the longer it took um for us to get this news, the more we were kind of, I think I should say the more I was resigned to the fact that, it's going to happen. But when it happened, it still felt like a bomb. And yeah, I really think that it's hard. It's hard when you have a streaky player. It's love hate, especially as fickle as we are. And I just, I like you. I consider him a baby bomber. You had to remind me that he was with the Cubs because in my mind, he was on his way to being a career Yankee. And so I just, you know what? I hope he kills it in Detroit. Except if such time occurs where we absolutely need him to be in a slump. But he's going to be a bigger fish in a little bit of a smaller pond. But Tigers aren't anyone we should ever sleep on. And who knows? They seem to be really serious this off season. So
Yeah.
yeah, but all the flowers for Sierra. Everybody in the chat, show her the love because this was really very hard for her. And speaking of the chat, I just want to say good morning, everybody. And let me see. Ken has a comment about the title. A weird title for the show. Cash has done a
We'll
good
get to
job
that.
in the week of in the wake of the Soto departure. Yankees won't make a move until the Sasaki signing. Well, Ken, thank you for your frankness and constructive criticism. I'm responsible for the wording of the title, but to me, it was about something else has to happen, and will it happen? Because we know the history here. We know that even when something needs to happen, and there's been many a trade season where it doesn't. So I agree with you. He was on his way, Cashman, to an A+ off season, but his grades are lowering a little bit. So he has a pop quiz that he really needs to ace. Ciara, what did you want to say about that?
Yeah, I was just gonna say. So Cashman came out swinging, right? I was on board with Devin Williams. That was a huge trade. Max Fried, great signing, and he could not look happier to be a New York Yankee. Where I get a little concerned, for me personally, I am not a fan of the Paul Goldschmidt signing, and I'm in the minority here. And it's just a stopgap. I totally get it. 2026 is going to be, it's either going to be we're going after Vladdy or one of the young guys is coming up. But I am nervous about a 37-year-old coming off his worst season ever playing first base for us. Because if you look at the numbers, we essentially let Anthony Rizzo walk and brought out Anthony Rizzo. And that concerns me, especially when I've said it in the past. I'm a fan of Anthony Volpe, but he needs a strong first baseman. So he's going to need Paul Goldschmidt to be his best next season, right? Not to mention, we don't know what's going on with second and third. There was this huge, smoke and mirrors with Caleb Durbin. They made it seem like he was going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. They traded him away. They let Gleyber walk, never even had a conversation with him. So now we have Jazz Chisholm, right? Is Jazz going to play second or third? Are the Yankees going to go after Hassan Kim? Are the Yankees going to trade for somebody? Are the Yankees going to get a prospect? Or are we going to be seeing a platoon of DJ and Oswaldo at third base? And let me be very clear, because I've said it a million times. I'm an Oswaldo fan, but he is not an everyday player. He is the ultimate utility guy. But him playing third base every day will not solve our problem. And DJ LeMahieu, he is a shell of his former self. So he also cannot play third base every single day. I'm just like, I don't understand what we're doing in the infield here for a team that's supposedly focusing on defense moving forward. It doesn't seem like we are. But outfield solid. I'm so concerned about the infield.
Right. Same. And, the thing about Waldo, and I've been plugging Waldo in every conversation I can, but still in all, if you're going to make me choose between Jazz and Waldo at third, it's going to be Jazz all day long, because Cabrera just doesn't have, to me, let me put it the other way. Chisholm is a more solid defender in that, and especially in that position. Although we have seen more of Cabrera on other bags than third a bit more, I still think that Chisholm is built for the infield, and why we love Cabrera is because he does it all. And I think that the Yankees are really invested in keeping him exactly that way. So he's not going to be a solution here. DJ, I really feel, they're just having him there just in case, just in case, they need a pinch hitter in late in the game, just in case all of a sudden, the first base, a Goldschmidt goes down on a short-term IL, like just in case he's there. Oh, we have an emergency, plop him in guy. I don't see him even, because I've seen people talking about, we'll see him on at least the start of the season as the first, before Goldschmidt, but now the same thing would be said about third. And I just don't think it would be that. I think that we're going to see very little of DJ. And I hope everyone, this chat has a long memory. They'll come back and remind me that I said that. And Lou, yeah, we could put Peraza at third, but you know what? I really feel like the Yankees are through with Peraza. And they should be. And we've talked about that on this show a lot. They really messed with his head, up and down, up and down, up and down. So he could be an Uber driver himself. He knows the road so well. So, let's get this kid cut loose and put him in a trading package and get him someplace solid that will actually need him and want him. But in theory, I agree with you, Lou.
Yeah, Peraza's a bigger head case than Gleyber Torres is, guys. So, I don't see him working out with us. And that's nothing against him. The Yankees, like Lynn said, up and down, up and down, up and down. They did the same thing, with Ron Marinaccio before they finally traded him away. The Yankees are terrible at managing their prospects, and that's why we don't have a ton of prospects in the top 100. It just is what it is. We hold on to them. Cashman picks 4 guys, right, that he loves, and he hugs the crap out of them when he could be trading them away and making the team better. And that's what kills me about Cashman. And while Peraza is better defensively than Gleyber, he has proven that he cannot hit at a major league level. So the Yankees, it's not for him. So unless he shows up to spring trading and just absolutely balls out and has a Giancarlo Stanton performance in spring training, I don't think you're going to see Peraza up here in the MLB for the Yankees. I guess we could also consider Jorbit Vivas to battle it out for second base. I don't know. What's really bothering me is that if you look at the payroll now for 2025, we're pretty much right at that 301 threshold. So we can't. The Yankees pretty much said that they don't want to go over the Cohen tax, which sucks because you have a great third baseman still out there on the free agency market in Alex Bregman, and now the Detroit Tigers are about to freaking swoop in and take Breggy. Like, we're gonna let the Detroit Tigers outcompete us. Like, the Dodgers are putting everything on layaway. The Diamondbacks are putting things on layaway now. The National League is going to be so competitive in 2025. I don't know what the American League teams are doing. And I don't know if that's why the Yankees are just kind of rolling over and saying we're done with our trading and we're done with the movement. But after the way we ended 2024 and the embarrassment in the World Series, I will freaking die on this hill. The Yankees need to go out and make a statement. And they're not doing that with Paul Goldschmidt. Cody Bellinger, great move. Paul Goldschmidt, I'm sorry, but we like to sign guys after their prime, and that irritates the crap out of me because I want to see a World Series win. I've only seen like one that I can truly remember in my entire 30 years of life. So can we get another one, please?
Right. Yeah, I agree. And Goldschmidt, we need to be open to happy surprises. We look at his age, we look at his numbers, we look at his resume, and it's a solid resume, obviously. But when are we going to get the all around picture of, oh, we're going to have a long time with this guy? Long time in this case being, can we get 3 years? Can they resign him for 3 to 5 years? You don't know at this age. And so I absolutely agree with you, especially when they had other options to consider. Yes,
do it.
So you know what, Sean? This was in my show notes. Actually, it was to talk about Jays Jong. But the thing is, and I look, that package makes sense to me, and we're giving 3 prospects away for him. But there's not a lot of experience in the show. I think he's had 34 outings up in the MLB. And he killed it at third, and the numbers defensively and offensively check the boxes, but it's a small sample size still. So even if we do that trade, I don't see that as like a quick pivot for Jazz moving to second and Jong being that guy. His brother has a World Series ring, but that's not going to help him. So let's because that in the article I read was like, oh, his brother won. No, let's just look at this. He, and he's young. And so everything I just said, I don't want to be a hypocrite about, but not like the solid solution. But we absolutely should, that being said. But with the money getting tighter and the tax threshold, yada, yada, yeah, I think we need our eyes on Jung for sure. Ciara?
Yeah, I think trading for Jung is an absolutely great move, even if we don't bring him up until after the trade deadline or, even playoffs if we freaking make it there, because I'm not trying to be negative, but I'm also not trying to watch the 2023 season again. That was the hardest season I've ever watched in my life. And don't get me wrong, the great part about it was I was able to travel to a bunch of different stadiums throughout the Midwest because the games were hella cheap, but it was still painful to watch. And I'm not disrespecting Paul Goldschmidt and his legacy and what he's done in the past, but 2024 is the worst season he's ever had. And he is slowly declining. And that's what happens when you get over 35 in baseball. It is what it is. I am one of the biggest Giancarlo Stanton fans in the world, but he just turned 35. And guess what? He probably doesn't have that much time left in him. And that's another reason why I really want a freaking World Series ring. I don't even want it for Judge. I don't want it for Aaron Boone. I want it for Giancarlo Stanton because with the performance that he puts up in the playoffs every season, he's the one that deserves it. So I understand that Goldschmidt is a stopgap, but we've had a rotating – it's been a rotation at first base, third base, and left field since like 2009. Like, I'm sorry that bothers me, but it really does. And typically I'm one of the most positive Yankees fans that there is. But I'm a little frustrated right now. And you know what? If putting up a Paul Goldschmidt for a year brings me Vladdy, I'll deal with it. And I know we've had this conversation, and I know the fans are split 50-50 on if they like Vladdy or not, but I would love to see Vladdy in pinstripes. He's like, what, 26 years old? Like, he's still young, and he's very talented, and I know that he's made comments in the past about not wanting to be a Yankee, but so did Marcus Stroman. And look who the biggest fan of the Yankees is now, Marcus Stroman. And if not Vladdy, I know everyone's on the Murakami train, but I'm not there yet. Right now, I'm gonna ride the Vladdy train. I really wanted Pete Alonso, but Scott Boras is his agent, so he's ruining his old free agency at this point.
Yep. All right. Well, this is my awkward smile about Vladdy. But like I've said before, if I grew to love Johnny Damon, and Wade Boggs, maybe that magic could happen with Vladdy and me. We'll have to see. And Graham, I think this is about the third or fourth time I've seen the word patient or patience from you.
I'm sorry. I'm clearly in a very impatient mood this morning.
You don't have to apologize. I was going to say, Graham, I know you're like me, years and years being a Yankee fan, and you should know full well the last thing we are is patient. It's not in our DNA. And so, but good for you for being a voice of reason. Noted, but it's not going to happen. And so just keep reminding us, and maybe it'll take hold in our psyche, but we are impatient, and we do have expectations, and again, hence the title of the show, and so let's also talk. Let's keep going on this. Oh, and by the way, welcome to the hot stove. We've been sitting on it since the show started, but Ciara, you mentioned another name that I was going to mention in one of your flows a little bit a while ago about Ha-Seong Kim at second base. He wouldn't be ready until April or May, but what about him? So
if the Yankees are willing to actually move some prospects and do it, then absolutely sign me up. And you know what? I would take Jazz Chisholm at third base and Ha-Seong Kim at second base any day of the week. Because like I said, Waldo is the ultimate utility guy. So when Goldie needs a day off, when Kim needs a day off, when Jazz needs a day off, he can play any of those positions for you. And I'm pretty sure he could probably play shortstop if Volpe needs a day off, because let's be realistic, we can't expect Volpe to play 162 games every single year. It's got to be a lot for the kid at this point. I would take him, but again, the Yankees don't want to move prospects, and that's the issue, right? We could have moved – chat's going to kill me for this. We could have moved Luis Gil for some people, but, rookie of the year, you don't want to give him up, and I get that, but at the same time, when is his trade value ever going to be higher? We could have moved Spencer Jones last season or the season before, but he is one of the people that Cashman wants to hold on to, and now he has like a 2,000 strikeout percentage down in AA, AAA, wherever the hell he's at right now. And there's no path for him to come up, because if we're bringing Jason Dominguez up and we have Cody Bellinger and we have Grisham on the bench, where the hell are we going to put Spencer Jones, right? Like, Cashman needs to figure out who he's keeping and who he's not at this point and let them go. Because we let go of, Cody Poteet, who was actually a good pitcher compared to Will Warren and Clayton Beater. Just freaking do it.
Right. And so that's also leading into another thing in my notes about the prospects. So there's an MLB article about the top 10 MLB teams and their system, their farm systems, and how they're doing with their prospects. Guess who wasn't on the list? Not only not the Yankees, but not the Dodgers, not Cleveland, not Baltimore, not anyone, not the Mets. So what are we doing with our prospects? And it's coming to my mind because you said Spencer Jones. Like, he's another one. Don't waste them away. Don't, like, I hope that they're really figuring that out for spring training. And he's another one to me that, like, we have to see him. He has to see us, and us being the the show MLB. He has to have. He's why have we not seen him more? Why is he not talked about? Cut this guy free. And
because nobody wants him now.
yeah,
His trade value has dropped. We should have traded him last season for Dylan Cease when we had the opportunity. The White Sox wanted prospects for their ace pitcher, and we said no. We got Juan Soto from the Padres, went to the World Series and lost, and then lost Juan Soto in the offseason in 2024, right? Whereas the Padres got Dylan Cease, and then they also turned around from the Yankees and got Michael King and Higgy, who both, like, all three of those players played their asses off in 2024. And while, yeah, the Padres couldn't get past the Dodgers to make it to the World Series, they put up a hell of a fight, right? And they're going to be a hell of a good team again in 2025 because the National League is coming to compete while we are rolling over and dying.
Big time for sure. So you mentioned, and I'm with you that all good in the outfield, but I would like a little bit of depth. And so, you reminded me of the one acquisition we saw, but a minor league deal, Brennan Davis. You want to talk about him for a sec?
Yeah, you know what's funny? So most of you guys know I live in Chicago. So my dad and my siblings, they are Cubs fans. And my dad and I were literally just talking before the Bellinger trade about the Cubs and how their outfield is too crowded, especially now with Tucker. And there isn't room for like certain guys to move up at this point. And like Seiya Suzuki is now stuck being a DH and whatever. I won't go into all that because it was a long conversation. For me to see an article yesterday about Brennan Davis, who's been in the Cubs minor league system for a few years now. He hasn't made it to the MLB because of just freak injuries, but he was in the top 100 for 3 years. And in 21, I believe it was, he was actually in the top 20 prospects. So I don't know what this means for the Yankees. He's on a minor league deal. That doesn't mean he has a spring training invite, but unfortunately, the guy is 25 years old and he's had lower back surgery from a malformation, congenital malformation, so not his fault. Also, same congenital malformation. He had to have core surgery. So unfortunately, the guy has had some setbacks. And then he's just had some freak injuries. He fractured his back, and then he fractured his ankle in a weird collision at second base. But before all of those injuries, he was one of the best players in single A ball at age 19. So I'm rooting for the guy to have a bounce back because he's had some setbacks that are out of his control. And he hasn't given up, and that's the type of player that I will always root for. Now, for our outfield, so that puts him, let's say he moves up to AAA, right? That puts him in contention with Spencer Jones. Because right now, as it stands, opening day, you're looking at Jason Dominguez and Cody Bellinger, whether who's playing center or left, I don't know at this point, Judge in right field, and you have Grisham on the bench making $5 million as a Gold Glove backup center fielder. So maybe 2026 will be the year for Brennan Davis, or maybe 2026 will be the year that Spencer Jones finally gets a shot. I don't freaking know. I'm just a girl watching baseball, but I would love to see the guy bounce back.
And the thing with the all that Davis comes with physically, his age is the thing that's really going to allay some that concern to some extent, right? There's a difference between a 28-year-old even having that kind of a history and a 19-year-old. And so, I don't view it as, damage.
Well, he's 25 now. He was 19 when he was tearing it up.
Even still, so, okay. So a bit on, my point being the younger you are, the more resilient you are physically. And so it's not necessarily at all a bad thing. And, in terms of Grisham, we don't know if we're going to see Grisham. I think he's still very much on the bubble. So, I would think we're going to see, I would think and hope that it would be Jones before anybody else that would, be the backup from the AAA coming up if needed in the outfield.
I'm going to disagree. I don't think Grisham makes enough money to move him. It's only $5 million, right? I've heard a lot of talk about trying to move Marcus Stroman and dump his $18 million, which makes more sense to me. And I know the guy gets a lot of hate, but realistically, Marcus Stroman would be a great 4 or 5 in anybody's rotation. So I could see him getting moved first, or unfortunately, it's all my favorite guys are the ones on the trading block. I could see Clark Schmidt getting moved. But Grisham, $5 million, it just feels like it's such a cheap option to have him on the bench. And if you look at what he actually did last season, he actually came up big in some moments, which we weren't expecting from him. So I'm going to go out on a limb. And, I don't know if anyone's ever seen High School Musical, but, Gabriella wears a T necklace. Well, in this case, T stands for Trent Grisham, and Trent Grisham will be a New York Yankee all of 2025.
Okay, well, so let's get a receipt for that and hope that it comes true. But yeah, and so Stroman, I would disagree, at least based on last season and last season alone, with him, being, the good fifth man on the rotation. Not with what I saw. I would more want him to stay in the pen and have him be, the fifth inning, sixth inning guy when, Rodon or Cole have had it for some reason or another. Sometimes it's they just aren't locating. Sometimes it's something sets them off, right? But I see him as a solid, middle game piece in the bullpen. And yeah, Schmidt's name is floating around all of a sudden in tiny trickles. But when you have a tiny trickle, my experience has shown that sometimes you do get the whole faucet flowing. So I'm just wondering why the chatter, as small as it is, about Schmidt, but probably because he'd be a huge trade piece, with his numbers and his age. I think that would be, and so I wouldn't put it off the table for sure. And the other thing is, in terms of Stroman, he still, his contract is not going to be easy to give away. I don't remember the exact dollar amount. Maybe someone in the chat could tell me, or you, Ciara. I don't remember, but we're stuck with him.
Stroh's making $18 million, I believe, and in 2026, if he hits 140 innings, he can opt in 2026 to stay with us.
Yeah.
So I want to keep Stroman. I think I'm alone on that train, but I know he's the one that has been the big talk. But I don't even know who would want Stroman at this point. I saw someone in the chat mention the Chicago White Sox, but the Chicago White Sox don't even want to pay the grounds crew. That's how much money they're trying to get rid of. The Chicago White Sox are looking at having as many 18-year-olds play every position as possible at this point. Maybe the Cubs, because they're actually looking to compete. Maybe, Boston, Orioles, one of those teams, because they don't have pitching at this moment. Or I'm sorry, Boston does. Maybe the Orioles, they don't have pitching at this moment. I don't know. But Clark Schmidt, it would hurt to see him go, because I've been such a big fan of his. And I said in 2024 he was going to be the Cy Young winner. And he was our best pitcher up until the point that he got injured. So it was really sad to see that happen. But he deserves a shot at being a legitimate starter, because realistically, he hasn't had one full season yet. 2023, he had half a season, and 2024, he got injured. So it was maybe 75% of a season. I would love to see him get a full season, whether it's with the Yankees or somewhere else, but he has the numbers. And if getting rid of Schmidt brings me a third baseman that can actually solidly play third base, or a second baseman that could solidly play second base, I'm okay with it.
Yep. And one of the reasons that Schmidt is floating around that I saw was for the Tigers to get Young from the Tigers, or Jung, sorry, from the Tigers, and obviously other considerations. So, and Adian here is saying that it's because of Sasaki. Now, Sasaki is another thing I want to say, is manage our expectations on, because that is going to be a brutal the time between now and January 15th is going to be brutal, because everyone that we've lost to in trade deals and signings is in the running. And so it's going to be Soto 2.0 almost. It's going to be like that level. So yeah, we definitely want him. But he's the bright shiny object, right? And so I would say I don't think every player from the international player is going to pivot as seamlessly as an Otani did. And so that's always in the back of my practical mind is, yes, the bright shiny object. Ooh, I want it. Everybody wants it, so I have to have it. We'd have to think about, I would see somebody saying, let's see how he does, and then pick him up. He's young, pick him up when we have another opportunity. So, but yeah, there's hardcore. And it's going to be, and everyone seems to be feeling, there I go generalizing again. But it does seem, and it's right, that the theory is be patient. There, Graham, I said it. Be patient. Because the reason we're not seeing anything or really hearing much of substance is because it's all about Sasaki. So, Graham, I'll check in with you on January 15th.
Can I share a concern that I have about Sasaki?
Yeah.
So he's met with 6 teams, and the Yankees have an uphill battle regardless. But Tanaka is one of his longtime heroes. Yankees legend Tanaka. But with that being said, look at Yamamoto and what happened to him when he signed with the Dodgers. He has to play on more. He can't play on the same amount of rest as Garrett Cole or Max Fried or Corbin Burns or Zach Gallen. He has to have an extra day of rest. So if we sign Sasaki, then we would have to keep Schmidt and Stroman, right? Because you can't, if you're expecting this kid to come over here and be an ace-like pitcher, you're going to have to let him continue on his rest rotation, just like Yamamoto. Because look at the Dodgers pitching last year. They had a fantastic rotation, and they all went down, including Yamamoto. And that's my one concern. I'm not saying I don't want the guy. I'm not saying don't go get him, but that concerns me.
Right. And, and Sean, I just had his comment up. He brought up my heart by mentioning Matsui and Ichiro. They made a seamless transition, but here comes Jay Snow. But they were position players. Sasaki hasn't pitched more than 120 innings. So, yeah. So thanks for that little Post-it note there. And another reason. However, that being said, is there going to be rejoicing across the land if we get him? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So I'm feeling like I want to cause a little bit of trouble for a second. So we're on the what do we need? Who do you want situation here? So hear me out. I really just hear me out. Not in the cute way. Jordan Montgomery might very well be available. So Jeff Passan reported that the Diamondbacks seem to not want him to return in 2025, which would obviously make him free to the next bidder. So he knows. We all know that he did not have a good season, probably because he missed the Yankees so much, and it was more heartache than anything else. But he did not have a good season whatsoever. But I think it was like his ERA was what? I know it was north of 6. Am I right about that, or was it 5? Pretty sure it was north of 6 his ERA at the end of the season. But
6.23, I believe.
Okay. Oh yeah. And so, but remember that what he did for us, and these numbers I do have. So like in 2021, it was a 3.8. And then in 22, it was a 3.48. And his career year was just in 2023 with a 3.20 ERA. So he's somebody that we have the data on, and yes, bad season last year, but I remember how sad I was, and how outraged I was. I think that was a show where I really went off the rails about, because this should not have been the guy. Monty was a solid part of the rotation, and I say he would be again. And I would certainly put him in there before I would put Stroman. So I'm just putting that out there. Who's hitting me in the chat?
So I wouldn't hate a Monty reunion, but I don't see him ever coming back to the Yankees. Bad blood aside, I think he stays with Arizona because he has something to prove. And now with them signing Corbin Burns and having Zach Gallen, they have a nasty rotation. And I think Monty needs to stay there and prove himself. Also, I don't blame Monty for his bad season. And he made the right move by firing Scott Boras after his offseason. And you know what, Pete Alonso, I hope you do the same thing. Because this man hypes your guys' heads up, makes you think you're worth more money than you are. And then you're sitting out here in the free agency market watching players who aren't as good as you get signed and get more money. Monty wasn't ready going into the 2024 season, just like Blake Snell wasn't ready. And you can't just ramp up after the season's already started. It's not. I mean, I've never been a pitcher, especially at the major league level, but to me, it doesn't seem like it's that simple to just ramp up after being off for all that time. So I think Monty will bounce back this season. I think the Diamondbacks are trying to compete with the moves that they've made. You know, they've brought in Josh Naylor. They've just signed Corbin Burns on layaway. So again, freaking National League, it's driving me crazy, but they're competing. And the National League West at the best. You know what? And that makes sense too, now that I think about it, because the Dodgers are in the West, right? So the Dodgers and Padres and the Giants of the Diamondbacks are going to need to compete. So I see him staying and killing it.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't understand why the Diamondbacks wouldn't. It's just that you see Jeff Passan mentioning it, and you wonder, if, and it was just speculation from him, but to me, speculation from Passan, is much more than that. I trust him like I trust Curry and Feinstein. So. I just wanted to put it out there, and I'm not getting as hard hit as I thought I would in the chat, but I know that he's not somebody that's going to pop to mind, but it's we'd be buying back something we know already, and we know what they're capable of, as opposed to not really having somebody from the National League that we don't have much time facing, etc. But still in all good luck to Monty, but I wouldn't mind having him back. And yeah, he did suck last year, and he was sent to the pen. And you know what? I'm not sure how well he did in the pen, but speaking of the pen, to me, we're not finished in the bullpen. I understand that the infield is priority. That's why we spend so much time on it at the top. It's the priority. And so, but I still am not feeling confident with the pen, and preferably that lefty that we're still needing. And there's Donnie Clark saying need more lefties. Reading my mind. Yeah, and so in terms of my want to, what do I need? I think we need someone in the pen. Clearly, we all need the infield solidified, and I've already talked about who do I want. So to me, Chisholm. Here's the thing with Chisholm. There was a debate going on Twitter about get him back to his natural position, etc. And so as not to confuse him further. But the thing is, he's not new anymore. I think he's had enough road under his wheels that he's proven himself as a third baseman. I think it'd be more likely to, he'd have to readjust to second base. I think it's the flip of what other people, have largely been saying. I'm really confident with him at third base. Third base is a very, pivotal position. And so his quickness and, he in releasing the ball and I just feel like don't mess with success. We've had success with him. It really has to be second base that we have to fill. And we already exhausted the topic on who we would want for that. Who do you have, Ciara?
I want Tim Hill back because that's a cheap option, and he's a left-handed pitcher. And for the Yankees alone, not for his entire season in 2024, he pitched a 2.205 ERA. Tim Hill showed up and showed out in the World Series and in the playoffs in general. The bullpen is like the one thing that didn't let me down in the World Series, if I'm being completely honest. So I would personally bring back Tim Hill. Again, super cheap option, and then go out and trade for like Jojo Romero or somebody like that. Like typically, I don't worry about the bullpen because for whatever reason, Cashman makes that work. And even if it doesn't fit in the beginning of the season, he'll find arms throughout the season and make these random ass moves where at the time I'm like, what the hell who is this guy? Where did you find him? And then he ends up being like, I don't know, amazing. So I'm more concerned personally just about the infield. I would leave Jazz at third. I totally agree with you there because if we're not going to go out and get Breggy, like Jazz is our best option to play third at this point. I don't know. Second base is my biggest concern. I'm still heartbroken over Gleyber Torres. And honestly, if you guys look at the free agency market, regardless of how everyone feels about him, he was the best available second baseman on the free agency market. We can either bring up a young guy or we can trade for somebody. But I saw Luis Ariz mentioned in the chat. And if we just let Gleyber Torres walk, why would we go out and get Luis Ariz, who is much worse defensively than Gleyber Torres? And if you look at their offensive stats, like Gleyber overall is a much better player, and I will die on that hill. We're not going to let somebody walk who has 16 errors just to bring on someone who's worse than him. Luis Ariz has negative 14 outs above average, and I know this because I had this argument with somebody the other day, and I pulled up both of their baseball savant pages. Gleyber had a negative 4 outs above average, and Ariz had a negative 14. That's a huge difference, guys. Like, and I know we need a leadoff hitter, but at this point, that's not the answer. I think we have, if we're going off of what we have, our leadoff hitter is either going to be Jazz Chisholm Jr. or Dominguez. Like that's what's going to happen.
Meanwhile, in the chat, first of all, Graham, you made him faint when you agreed with him earlier. So this is interesting. Graham, Donnie, and Graham. Donnie brought up Reyes for if Goldie needs time off as like a backup, and Adian saying he's a DH who can't hit homers, and so if that's true, I'm not mad at that because I think part of the problem with our slumps in the off at the plate from folks was the hitting for power all the time. If you have somebody who's going to get on base, so that others can get on base. Hitting for power is an all or nothing. Leave that to Stanton. That's his role on the team. I was really happy to see Judge do a bit less of that last season, and actually just get on base. So, but I don't know. And you know what? As a designated hitter, is a bit of a, that's already taken with Stanton. So I really don't see it's interesting.
Yeah, no, that is Stanton's role. And Yankees, okay, listen. I'm going to go on another rant, and I know I've been doing this the whole show, but Yankees fans have complained about Giancarlo Stanton for the past 3 seasons and how he's a glorified designated hitter. Why would we go out and bring on another one? That doesn't make any sense, especially when you know what you're getting from Stanton, right? If Skinny Legs can stay healthy, you know what you're getting. And even after he goes down and comes back, he's coming back swinging. And if we make it to the freaking playoffs, that Stanton is going to put this team on his back and get us to where we need to go. So no, we don't want Luis Ariz. We don't need a guy who can't play defense, who can't steal a base. Because even if you look at the freaking stolen bases, Gleyber Torres has more. Gleyber Torres, who is a chunky monkey and cannot run to save his life, has more stolen bases than Ariz. So let's just drop it. He's not coming to the Yankees. You don't put on the pinstripes and become better. That's not how this works. Like typically, if you can't handle the pressure in a smaller market, you're not going to handle the pressure in New York, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah, that's the smell test right there. And we've learned the hard way that, it's not the outfit that makes the player. So we view the pinstripes, as magical, but really they're not. They didn't come out of the genie's bottle. So Jay Snow, horrible, maybe a little bit lower. Let's push that down to not what you want. There was a time though, if you remember, Volpe was a great leadoff for a long stretch. And I don't remember exactly the time frames, but then, then he just wasn't anymore. And it was one of the 12,000 times he had to readjust last season to figure some stuff out mechanically. I like him where he is. He is the perfect bottom of the order guy.
Mm-hmm.
Keep him in that 8th spot where he seems to have existed, and let him be part of setting up the power guys at the start of the lineup. And Jazz, I don't know. I would think that this is something, that is a look for during spring training, but it is a hole we got to fill because let's face it, Gleyber, killed it as a leadoff. And so I don't know if that was consequential to, to the fact that the second half of the season was better than the first half of the season. And when he started leading off was as we were heading toward the postseason where he absolutely slayed. But we have a hole there. We don't know who the leadoff guy is. And I guess that's something that we're going to be maybe eyeballing Bellinger for. And maybe that would be a possibility. But other than that, that's going to be an interesting thing to see play out.
Yeah. No, I agree. And if we're talking about what we want versus what's really going to happen, you know what I want? I want Jose Ramirez. That's what I want. That's a third baseman. That's a third baseman who has good defense, who hits consistently throughout the season. And if your team gets into a fight on the field, he's going to knock somebody out. So I would love to see Jose Ramirez in pinstripes. I think I've been saying it. The Yankees need villains. And I think he would fill that role. But if not, I will leave that role open for Vladdy next season. But realistically, I just leave Jazz at third. Let Volpe stay in the bottom of the lineup. I would lead off Jason Dominguez, put Volpe 9, perfect table topper ends, whatever that saying is. You have 2 guys who can steal bases, one at the top, one at the bottom. Bada bing, bada boom.
So first of all, is J-Ram available?
Probably. I mean, anyone's available, right? Like that's how I view it. But the Yankees would have to give up. Like the way I see it is Cleveland is not competing in 2025. They gave up their Gold Glove second baseman. They gave up Bo Naylor. And now the Tigers just got better because they just brought on Gleyber Torres. And if they sign Breggy, like it's basically their division. So the Yankees might as well call them up and say, who do you want? Because you're not competing. Let J-Ram come to New York. Let him compete. Let him go. Let him actually get past the – well, he wouldn't have to get past the Yankees because he'd be honest. But let him actually get past the ALDS and maybe taste a World Series. Because I'm sure, he wouldn't mind it himself. But Cashman would – I don't see Cashman ever doing it. It's just something that my delusional self wants to happen.
Okay. Well, I mean, in all fairness, it was who do you want? So and it didn't necessarily mean we can get. And so, so we got somebody giving their wants. The lineup in regard to the lineup. So Dominguez, Wells, Judge. So I'm acknowledging that I might have to eat my words, and I'd be happy to do it, but I really don't trust Dominguez yet in any sort of high leverage situation. I think it's too soon overall, and what we've seen so far, I'm just, I'm no, not yet. Is there potential there? Well, hell yeah. But still not quite yet. I would put Wells at leadoff before I would put Dominguez at leadoff if we're going in that direction. And going off the stats and Wells being almost rookie of the year, maybe that's the flowers we give him and think about him as leading off and see how it goes. Donnie reminded us that Judge did a good job as leadoff at a point in time, but I don't think he'd have any appetite for that, Donnie. I think that Judge is like laying, he's in his leaning back years a bit, and he really, made it clear. I'm thinking back to when we were fighting for Soto. He had a vision about who he wants right before him. He needs somebody before him in the lineup.
Yeah,
Ciara, what do you say?
You can't put Judge, who's a unicorn, at leadoff. Like that. What are we doing here? Like that's not a thing. We're looking at a Bellinger, Judge, Stanton sandwich. That's what we're looking at. Or Bellinger, Judge, Wells, Stanton sandwich. I don't know where Goldie fits in at this point because he's going to be in that top middle order as well. But
yeah,
no, you can't just throw Judgy at the top. It doesn't work.
He's following that up with a question. If the Yankees were to sign Bregman, would he lead off?
No, I think no matter what happens, you're looking at Jazz Chisholm or Dominguez. I think those are your two options internally at this point.
Yeah, I could be a bit controversial every now and then, Graham. To me, and I understand why you're saying that. I'm not blowing that off. I just think at the moment, for what you want a leadoff guy to be and do, he's the candidate. I'm not saying he'll be the one. And I completely understand what you're saying, and you're absolutely right about it. There's reasons why catchers typically aren't in that spot. So I think we're Wells ain't Yogi. Yeah, so
I have a controversial question though, because, and this is no disrespect to Yogi Berra or any of the old timers, but the game has changed so much since it was black and white. And I'm kind of going off topic now, but I just have to ask. When you look at players like Babe Ruth, Yogi Berra, all those guys, do you think that they could play in today's game? It's so different. And I say the same thing about the NBA and the NFL. Like the game has evolved so much, and that there's crazy amounts of talent. Do we think that those same guys could compete in today's day and age?
Absolutely not. And I really think it's an apples and oranges situation, though. They were great in their point in time, in the game as it was in that point in time. We shouldn't be really looking at them as a comparison. We should be looking at them as a standard and as a part of history because of what they did in the league in their era. And so I think that's where the confusion comes in a lot of the times is, and why we say they'll never, he's the next Jeter, and we yell, no, he's the next, whatever his name is.
He's the next Anthony Volpe, and let him be that.
Exactly. So Yogi was Yogi. There'll never be another Yogi. But there'll be somebody that would be reminiscent of Yogi because in this era, they are doing the great things in the way comparatively that Yogi did in his era. And so that's my little mini lesson of the day.
I like it.
So I want to put this up because a lot of free agents are attached to qualifying offers. I don't want to lose draft picks or international bonus money. We need the bonus money for Sasaki. What about trade for Brendan Donovan?
Ooh, so my very good friend Rich Rivera over at Empire State of Baseball has actually been calling for Brendan Donovan since the beginning of the offseason. And I am 100% on board for that. However, I am going to say that when it comes to draft picks for the New York Yankees, this is no hate, John. Please don't be upset when I say this. Who freaking cares, okay? Like, we hog our prospects and don't do anything with them. Last year in the draft, all we did was draft a bunch of random pitchers who we'll probably never see. I don't care about the draft picks this season. Sorry, like that's how I feel about it. And I know everyone has their own opinion, but until Cashman can show me that we can develop prospects and actually see them in the major league and see them be competitive outside of Anthony Volpe and Austin Wells, I don't want to hear about the prospects. Okay. And when it comes to the international signing money, I'm not worried about it because we're still going to be signing the kids from the Dominican Republic because that's what we do. That's what we do with the New York Yankees. Okay. I hope this doesn't come off as disrespectful, but when it comes to the Japanese free agents, we are at the bottom of the ranking for who they're going to pick because they've all made it very clear the West Coast works best for them. Again, not saying I don't want Sasaki, but I am going to manage my expectations when it comes to signing Sasaki. I'm okay with losing one draft pick if it means that we can compete in 2025 because, again, I cannot watch 2023 again. I can't do it. That was the hardest season I've ever watched in my life. And you know what, guys? My football team has been terrible this season, so I need my baseball team to be good next year.
Right.
Or I'm going to go crazy.
And why are we going to be so hype about draft picks when once they get here, we do nothing with them?
Exactly.
So makes no kind of sense. Yeah, well, if in 25 are yeah, exactly. Kind of my point. Yep. All right.
We are not a rebuild franchise. That's not who we are. If we were the Mariners or the Cubs or the Orioles or a team that could sit back and watch and wait for a rebuild, it would be different. But that's not how we've been conditioned as Yankees fans. And I know that makes us entitled. It makes us spoiled. But that's just the reality of being a Yankees fan. And I understand, Graham Highlander, that they are still going to be the best team in the AL. But being the best team in the AL does not beat a National League team in the World Series, especially when the Yankees have terrible coaching. We have defensive blunders. We have our aces having meltdowns on the mound. Like, I'm not even concerned about the American League, guys. I'm concerned about if we make it to the World Series, can we compete with any of these National League teams? Look how good the National League West is in general. And then also look at the Mets. Like, look at the Cubs. These teams are coming to compete, and that makes me nervous. And again, we've already established the fact that I'm not a patient person.
And you know, and from the same person who was calling about impatient, I had to put this on there because, Graham, listen, there are two words that are forbidden on this show, and it's calm down. It's the last thing you want to say to a woman, by the way. And I'm sure you're well aware of that. And so, yes, the Yankees are the best team in the AL. We cannot be complacent about that. It's true in this moment in time, but we can't be complacent about that. They could tank in a red hot second, you know, and 2025 could be completely different. We don't want that to be. I am not speaking it into existence, but it's just they're the best for now. But you know what? They're not the best in the MLB because we got beat. And to Ciara's point, there are a lot of teams that we've said on previous shows, don't sleep on them, that now they are awake and doing the things. And so what is that going to mean for us as we're facing them late in the season? So no room for complacency on that. But all the hope for it, obviously. So I would like to end the show with some thoughts about saying goodbye to 2024, since the next show will be next year. So let's try to remember. I'd love to hear from you, Ciara, your your favorite moment, best part of the season. What made you the happiest overall in 2024 for this team? And obviously, want to hear this from the chat.
Yeah, so guys, it's going to come to no surprise that it was a Gleyber Torres moment. So that game where Marcus Stroman was yelling at my second baseman, and Gleyber Torres got up to bat and hit an FU home run, and then looked up at Judge like a proud little kid. That was one of my favorite moments. And then tied with that, Giancarlo Stanton winning the ALCS MVP, because I have never wanted a player to win a championship or a World Series more than Giancarlo Stanton. I don't typically throw around the word deserving, but Giancarlo Stanton is very deserving of a World Series ring, and he will be a bubble Hall of Famer. He's put up great numbers in his career, and regardless of if he can play the field or not, Stanton is a hell of a player. So with that being said, those are my two favorite moments, and I'm very much looking forward to Giancarlo Stanton absolutely crushing it in 2025.
Love that. And Donnie is reminding us of the Grand Slam from Volpe in the postseason, 100%. Gregory's talking about Soto's homer against 100% for that. And FJ is just remarking that he is going to be a Hall of Famer. And by the way, we're going to get that news not too far future. Gets in.
The people who vote on the Hall of Fame right now, though, are a joke, and I could go on a rant about that, so I won't. They need to get it together.
Oh, I'm loath to put this up here. Close your eyes, Sierra. Best part of 2024 was finding out Gleyber Torres was.
I'm gonna block Brad on Twitter because that was uncalled for.
No.
I had to talk to myself in the mirror this morning before coming on camera because I was literally going to cry the moment that I started talking about Gleyber. Like I have never been so emotionally attached to a baseball player outside of Derek Jeter. Like it hurt my heart seeing the message that he put out on Instagram and then hearing that like nobody from the Yankees front office even had a conversation with this guy after 7 years. That's a sad way to depart. And it bothers me, but I digress.
And unfortunately, that really does seem to be the Yankee way, and it's horrendous. Bernie Williams comes to mind.
Gardy.
I started to choke up, I think, because I was like, couldn't get the words out. My Gardy is another example, and it's galling to me. And I could go on a rant on just that. And Graham, so that gives me hope for 2025, Graham, because if they forgot how to play baseball and made it through 5 games in the World Series to the end we want to forget forever. There's one thing I want to forget in 2024 from the Yankees. It's Game 5. So no particular highlight. Maybe that was a hard question.
I do have an exciting thing that we can talk about for 2025.
Yes, do it.
So for everyone who has stuck around to the end of the show, because we had like 60 plus people in the chat and now we're at 38. Appreciate everybody who was here today. Pinstripe Chronicles, we just recently went over 1,000 subscribers and that's a huge, huge thing for our channel. Shout out to all of, the lovely people I work with, Lynn and the guys as well. Because of this, CT Cards was very kind and he sent Bobby, Uncle Tats, some cards for us to give away. Our very first giveaway is going to be a Ken Griffey Jr. card plus a mystery card. In order to be entered into this giveaway, once we're done being live and the video is posted, like and comment on the post, give us some engagement, and we will put your name into the drawing. Uncle Tats will go live and he will do a name wheel spinny thing and announce the winner so that it's fair. And then once that person is announced, he will give you the email address to email him the information so that you can get your Ken Griffey Jr. and your mystery card. Again, thank you so much to CT Cards for all the support and for providing those cards for us. We seriously appreciate you.
Yeah. Really, really, thank you so much, CT. And what an exciting thing. I'd like a Ken. Am I eligible? Probably not. But yeah, and what a little thing to do, right? Sign off. Wow, that was such a great show. Give us a thumbs up and leave a comment. And so I think that is so exciting, and it won't be the last time. There may be any further opportunities for this. So but it's also just our way, whether you do it or not, or win or not. That we're so excited to have something to share as part of gratitude, just for all of you that come every week. Ciara, and those of you that came for the first time today, and hope to see you back. Graham, I hope you come back. um, and even though I had remarks for you about calming down, um, you're such a great addition in the chat. Ciara, what are your last words?
Yeah. Here's to letting go of 2024 and the Yankees forgetting how to frickin' play baseball in the World Series. The next time we see you guys, it'll be 2025. We're going to bring in all the good vibes. I will be back to being a positive Yankee fan next week, I promise. And you know what? 2025 is going to be a great season for us, regardless of everything I said in the past hour.
Absolutely. And so here's what I want for 2025, and my final words are, and it was really embedded in a lot of we just talked about. I want to see a lot of invitations to spring training. And I then want to see some of those invitations turn into some bringing losing words with I'm losing my voice. I want to see spring training blossom into seeing these guys up in the show, and getting some experience and getting the fans to look fors, and so we got to treat our prospects better. We got to do something with our farm system to not let them age and then go from the farm to the nursing home, right? So that's really what I'm hoping for in 2025, and obviously the ring, because Stanton needs the bling, and we need it, and it's been way overdue. So and my other wish is that everybody on the chat, everyone listening after, we wish you all a happy, healthy, and really fulfilling 2025. And we're looking forward to a full year with you again. And so, as always, you have a reserved seat right here on the upper deck with Ciara and me. And just go Yankees and go Bills!